we're going to look at a decision maker. So this is like when you can't make up your mind on whether you should or shouldn't do something, you can open this application and it will decide your fate for you. Now the decision maker itself only has three answers: yes, no, or maybe. So it's a step beyond where we've previous examples where we've had one or two. This one has a third option. And the real goal of this video is how do we go from three options to a larger amount? So after we make the decision maker, we're going to do a magic 8 ball. If you recall those, that was the black ball and you'd press it and it's actually got about 20 answers. So we're going to do some research, find what those answers are, the available answers, and we're going to turn our learning here from 3 options into a new program that's going to have 20 choices. So let's get started. So in Scratch, okay, so when we run this program, enter your question, yes, should I, let's say, have a bowl of ice cream? See, these are real problems here. No, okay, well that's decided it for me, that's great. We go to Python, see what Python thinks. Should I? Well, Python thinks yes. So the decider is going to be JavaScript. It's no. Okay, so you can see that this program surprisingly has made wise choices for me. So let's dig in a bit and see how this works. So we've got enter just to let the user know what's going on, nothing too difficult there, that's just output. And then we've got the ask block, which has the variable called answer. And the prompt has the should I, so that puts a framework to the user's mind. So should I stay, or should I go to the shops, or should I answer the phone, or should I do this? And then that user input is stored in a variable here. And we don't actually do anything with this user input for the rest of the program, but we just wanted a place where the users can type. So it doesn't actually matter what the user types. Then we've got random number 1 to 3, and we have this array. So rather than having 3 separate variables, because I know I'm going to expand on this program, having 20 variables is not going to cut it. So we've gone with an array, and if I tick over here, I've got the array here, and it has yes, no, and maybe, and I can add more items or remove them. And so on our array, we have a random number of this array that's called choices. I get random choices, yes, no, or maybe. So it's really picking. If it's 1, it prints this value. Number 1 of choices, it could be like this, item 1 of choices is going to say yes. Item 2 of choices is going to say no. And item 3 of choices is going to say maybe. So if we put the variable called random number inside of there, well, then we get the random effect that we're after. And then we hide these. And so to the user, it looks like it's actually answering the question. Okay, and based on this, somebody might repeat grade 12. So in Python, exactly the same. We had to import the random library. We've got the user input to set the framework, and that's stored in a variable called answer, and we have no further reference to that variable for the rest of the program. We have another variable called random number, which is a random integer, 0, 1, or 2. We have the choices array, and this is the 0, this is the 1, and this is the 2. So recall that text-based languages are different to Scratch, and then we output or print the variable choices and either the 0th, the 1st, or the 2nd index item. So just to refresh, instead of print choices 0, choices 0 would be yes, choices 1 would be no, and choices 2 would be maybe. Because we have a random, we can get the output, which is purely random, and then by putting the question in there, it appears to the user that the program is answering their input. Similarly, in JavaScript, we have a prompt stored in a variable called answer. Random number generator, math.random between 0 and 1, multiplied by 3, and then we round down with math.floor, which surrounds this. So this gives us 0, 1, or 2 because of the rounding down. Choices array, 0th item, 1st item, 2nd item. Output, whether we document.write or we alert or we get element by ID or we console log, however we're going to output document.write in this instance. The choices array, we want either the 0 or the 1 or the 2. And so we get the effect that the program answers the user input. So that's the basic decision maker. So now we want to turn this into the magic 8 ball. So we'll do a little bit of research. Wikipedia has 20 answers, and it says in here that 10 of them are affirmative, 5 are non-committal, and 5 are negative. So we want to grab these, and grab this data, and we're going to change it to suit. So we're not going to worry about Scratch now. It's going to be essentially the same, except that our our array called choices would be filled with 20 items, and we would choose 1 to 20. So I'm going to just prepare the data. Something I'm going to just look for is, I can see here I've got apostrophes and it looks like it's changing the data type. So I'm going to change that to do not, and that's just going to help minimize problems. All right, I'll just get the rest of these prepared now. Now, so at the moment it's only going to pick 0, 1 or 2. So we could try this. It's only going to pick this one, that one, or that one. So I could put in 0 to 20. And that's working better. However, I might find that I want to actually take some items out of here or add more in. So I want the flexibility of, instead of putting in a random number from 0 to 20 as the range, I want to have the range to be the length of how many items are in the array. So you recall in Scratch when we had the length property told us there was 3 items. So I'm going to ask how many items are in the array choices, and then I'm going to use that number. Okay, so printing the length of the number of choices tells me that there's 20 items in there. If I took out this many and run it again, it tells me there's 11. So that lets me know that there's a flexible way here. So if I put in, instead of random range from 0 to 20, I can put this length value, 20 in this case, store that in a variable called length, and I can use that throughout the program. So what I could do is actually put that under here and say from 0 to length. And so now we have now a magic 8-ball with 20 choices, and we've done some testing here and we've got our output. So now I want to take away that one, run it again, and so now it's working as we had hoped. Okay, so here's the JavaScript version. We've got the prompt telling the user what we want, storing the answer in a variable called answer. We've got the choices array, which has 20 items in it. And we've got the variable length, which stores how many items are in this array. And so in our random number generator for JavaScript, where we've got 0 to 1, instead of multiplying it by 20, we're multiplying it by the length of the array, and then we're outputting choices from 0 through to 20. So each for all intents and purposes, the magic 8-ball is now working. Starting with the decision maker, 3 choices. So we decided not to use variables, we decided to use an array or a list, and we would choose an index number from there. We then built onto that with Python. We used the import library to essentially choose a random item from the choices array, and we have it output to the user to feedback an answer. And we did the same exercise in JavaScript.